Jim Johnston. Jay Dobick and I, for the past few months, have been following a band out of Portland. Within the past year, a few bands have been making a name for themselves. The Boys, which had a surprise hit with the song She Loves Buddha, and the band Devon Square has just recently signed with a national label. The band that Jay and I have been following, we feel, could be the biggest band and the best band to come out of Portland yet. That band being the Copters.
I'm Jay Dobick. Unfortunately, the view you just received is one most received of these performers. The view from the bar stool is a very limited one, to say the least. In tonight's documentary, we've tried to give you a different look at the members of the Copters. We've also taken a look at the members around the band, such as Gene Muse, who's not only a fan, but the band's photographer.
I volunteered. I went out to all their gigs and took some pictures, and they really didn't come out very well. So I took some classes, and eventually they started to come out, and they needed some pictures for promo packages, and they gave me the chance to do it, and now I'm kind of building up on it.
This is the latest of Gene's pictures. It will be used in their upcoming promotional package.
Behind the scenes are two people most do not associate with the band. They are Bob Smith and Greg Landry.
Well, it's pretty much all of us because we're part of the band because we have to, like, make sure all the equipment is working right and set it up. So it's like we do the before part and they do the middle and the after. You know, they make the outcome of it.
The worst part about working for the Copters or in any band, I would say, would be loading in, loading out, which would be bringing in equipment and whatnot. It's just, it is really hard work. I mean, it only lasts maybe half an hour at the most, but it's hard work at the time, walking up 2 flights of stairs, carrying heavy equipment and whatnot. But that's about really the hardest part because most of the other time while they're playing, it's more of a technical aspect, so you're just using your brain. You don't have to do any physical kind of work, so that's really about the hardest part about it.
The best part is getting to watch a live band for free.
This is Benny Green. He is the chief editor of Face magazine. He has seen many area bands and believes the Copters have a lot going for them, including a great live show.
I think now, and I have always thought, that the Copters' biggest plus, not by a long margin, but I still think their biggest plus is that they write really good songs. They're extremely good songwriters. And their second biggest plus, not far behind their songwriting, is that they're very good performers. They play their instruments well, they interact real well on stage, and they do a good job with the crowd. Those are two pretty big things to have going for you, and they definitely do in both cases. You know, there are a lot of national recording acts, I keep coming back to that phrase, but there are a lot of them that just don't write as well or play as well as the Copters do, and that's the flat-out truth.
Now that you've heard what one critic has had to say about the Copters, it's time to meet the members of the band. The first member to be showcased is Tony Rivers. Tony is the latest member of the band.
Did lights for about a year before that, and when Joe Donovan left, I knew all the material, and so I asked Joe Brien if I could have an audition. I went down, did like 25 songs, and they said, yeah, you're in. I've been in 2 or 3 other ones. This one's probably like the best one I've been in, and the other ones weren't really original bands, they were just cover bands.
In Tony's house, one will see many different objects, some weirder than others. The oddest part may not be his possessions, but his position.
I work in a dental lab. I make false teeth, yeah.
In this day of electronics, some groups have tried to replace the drummer with a drum machine. But to the true rock and roll fan, the drummer is a must. The Copters have a very colorful drummer, in the form of one Joe Gallopi.
I think when I first started playing, my influences were people like Neil Peart and of Rush and Alex Van Halen, Stuart Copeland. They were my main 3. Just because they were so technical, I couldn't really understand them. So I found it a challenge. Then I really started to appreciate not what someone could do, but the feeling they could create. And that's when people like Ginger Baker of Cream and Mitch Mitchell and Keith Moon, and they were the guys that really impressed me. Those 6 probably. I like to consider myself, an all-around drummer. I've played a lot of different things. I was in a lounge gig where, it's strictly like Frank Sinatra stuff, which was good money, and sometimes I wish I was still doing it, but no, just kidding. But I got into the Copters through Tim Emery, who was I was living with him at the time, good friend of mine, and he knew the band, was good friends with them, and they just needed a drummer at a certain period of time, and I just really wanted, I was a fan of the Copters to start with, and I just wanted to play with them. And once I got my shot, I, tried to make the best of it. And of course, I was having fun doing it, so there was no problem with, what the songs were, or the style. I just enjoyed the music to begin with. Okay, this is my son Miles, and as I'm going to show you, he's just as talented as his dad. Okay, you ready to play the drums? Okay. Spin your sticks.
The one member who has been with the band the whole way is Joe Petty.
Joe and I were kind of stuck here in town without anybody else that really wanted to do what we wanted to do, which was make a record, first of all.
The Copters did complete that task in 1986, only Tony Rivers had not yet joined the band. Joe Donovan was the bass player.
Favorite songs, favorite songs to me a lot of times are whatever we've written that week that you know, that comes out really good. There's a lot of favorite songs I have on the radio, but I really only get charged up when somebody in the band writes a good song and it's coming off really good. So whatever we've done that week is what you know, if it's coming off good, we like it.
If you haven't noticed, Joe Petty wears only black coats. When asked why he wears black coats, he danced around the answer.
Black coats, well, we always dressed in black, either black leather or black coats. It hides a lot, too, especially pinstripes.
The final member of the band is Joe Brien. He and Petty were the founding fathers of the Copters.
A week later, Joe Petty and I started another band, and because we had our own thing that we wanted to do, and we actually had a band for about a month, and we were ready to play out, practice every day for 8 hours down in the basement of the old Free Street pub. They had this door that lifted up out of the floor like the dungeon in the Munsters. You know, you used to lift it up, and you'd go down these stairs way down into the basement, and that's where the Copters practiced every day. And so they asked us to do a gig, and it was going to be our big debut, and they said, well, what are you going to call yourselves? And because the guy was on the phone from the newspaper, and they wanted to print the ad. So we came up with Joe Green and the BZ Copters, because that was the guy that does the traffic reports on WBZ. And I always used to go around and do it. And on my chest, you know, like I'd go, Joe Green for the BZ Copter, you know. And so that's where we got the name for the band. And then after a friend of mine from Boston University called me one day and said that he had told me that his friend said that we could get sued if we used that because it was a trademark of the station, so we just shortened it to the Copters. You know, when you're little, sometimes you know you want to grow up and be a doctor, or you want to grow up and save the world, or you want to grow up and be a baseball player. But when I was really young, the Beatles had a great influence on me. I was probably 5 years old when it happened, so it really put a dent in my head. Yeah.